Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Tech Motoring. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing Hyundai's new software and navigation update for their vehicles. We're going to take a look at what they have updated and changed in this new version, and we're also going to discuss how you can do your updates by yourself for your Hyundai vehicle. So hit that subscribe button, stay tuned, we'll come right back at you. Welcome back everybody. Well, like I was saying, we're going to discuss the October 2022 Hyundai and software update for your vehicle. So if you do have a Hyundai vehicle that's probably within the past 7 years or less, you'll be able to do this software update. Most likely, all depends on your region, country and everything like that, the vehicle and what trim and everything. But this is for the software and navigation update. Now this was released in October of 2022. I know it's November now, so I'm a little bit behind on getting this video out, but we'll go ahead and discuss all the differences. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the description below a link to the step-by-step guide on how to do this. But before you go doing that, just wait 1 second. We want to discuss a couple things that may be slightly different now since I've posted that video a little while back, and discuss what you may need for the process. So let's talk about that, and then we'll jump into what's different in the update. So first thing is first is let's talk about what you'll need to make the process happen. Now you're going to need either an SD card or you're going to need a flash drive. Now depending on your vehicle will depend on which one of these you need. So the first thing you need to do is if you have an older Hyundai vehicle, probably like a 2016, 17, 18, depending on the vehicle, you may have an SD card in the dashboard, probably somewhere around your head unit. Now, if you do have an SD card for your navigation, you need to use the SD card to do the update. You have to use it. So make sure that you take the card out of your car and do this process with the card. You'll understand when you see the video. Now, if you do not have an SD card, but you do have navigation, that means the navigation is built into your radio of the vehicle. So you're actually not taking out the chip that has all the data on it, it's actually just integrated into the head unit. So what you will need for that is actually a flash drive. And what you'll need with the flash drive is to update a flash drive that you have, and then you'll need to put that in your vehicle to update the files that are in your vehicle. Now let's talk about storage requirements. Now, Hyundai typically recommends that you use a 32 gig SD card if you have an SD card slot, because 32 gig just seem to be big enough and work well for their vehicles. Now, some vehicles are being reported that they don't fit on a 32 gig. The update file is too big. So you may have to go to a 64 gig. Now I know what you're probably trying to say here is, well, why don't I just get a 256 or a 512? So when you get too big into the capacity of these cards, sometimes the updates don't work properly. But what typically happens is that they want you to format this in a FAT32 file system. And it typically does that automatically during the process. And I know that some people with bigger cards usually have an issue with that process. So if you have an SD card, make sure you use whatever size it requests, whether it's a 32 gig or a 64 gig, and then use the proper sized card according to what the Hyundai software recommends. So if you take a 32 out of your car, try to update it. If it doesn't work, you can bump up to a 64 gig. And of course, if a 32 gig is big enough, there's no reason to update it since it's just going to be sitting in your car anyway. Now let's talk flash drives. Pretty much the same policy applies to flash drives, except make sure you have one that's big enough for your update, and you don't need to get a giant flash drive to do this. Just make sure that it is big enough to hold the files. So you don't need to get a 512 gigabyte flash drive to do this update that's only going to require 30 gigs or 40 gigs. So if you have smaller flash drives laying around, that should be perfectly fine. But if you have to buy one, try not to go crazy and buy a huge one, because it may not work properly, but you are more than willing to try that on your own. In the meantime, let's talk about speeds. So flash drives for the most part should be perfectly fine, but Hyundai does say that if you have a SD card, to use at least a class 10 SD card. And now you can actually just go to Amazon and go to class 10 SD cards, or I will have a couple links in the video for the instructions that you can go to in a short while. So now that you've heard all of that, depending on your vehicle, you may not have an SD card, or you may have an SD card, you have to use it. You can't use a flash drive on those vehicles, or if you don't have an SD card, make sure to use a flash drive. And like I said, any flash drive should be fine, just as long as it's not super duper old. So now that you've heard all that, now you can go and click on the link up here to take you to those instructions. Or if you just missed that, you can actually just go down to the description. Well, I will have the link for the instructions step-by-step of how to update your Hyundai vehicles. Now, of course, if you're here to see the actual update release notes and discuss those, then stick around, because that's what we're going to next. So let's take a look at what changes we can see on some Hyundai vehicles. All right, now if you're looking for the link to do the update, I will have that in the description below as well. But keep in mind that I'm going to be putting a link down there for the United States update link. So if you're from a different country, you'll have to go to your local Hyundai website, whatever that is, and then look for this support or software downloads page that's on that site for your specific download. But once you download the software, pretty much it's all straightforward from there. But here are the release notes for, once again, US for October of 2022. So let's talk about new features. Sound therapy in your vehicle. New sounds have been added to the sounds of nature. So for some of you who have some newer Hyundai vehicles, you may have this place that you can actually choose certain sounds. They've actually added some more sounds, which is pretty cool. Please enjoy the new and updated selections in sounds of nature: living forest, crashing waves, communication with the universe, and dawn in the city. So interesting sound names there. Of course, for those of you who have newer Hyundais, you'll know what this means, but for those of you who do not have newer Hyundais like myself, you're not going to understand what that is. But that's pretty cool how they're still supporting some of these interesting features on some newer Hyundai vehicles. All right, so here's another update. Have you ever applied a sound processing effect to Bluetooth audio music and then changed the mode to radio to listen to a radio program hosted by an announcer? Since the effect, that's a long question. Since the effect suitable for playing a live performance was still active, you may have thought the radio's host voice sounded a bit strange. Now you can set the effect according to each media mode. Enjoy the sound that is right for you for each mode, such as radio, USB, music, and Bluetooth audio. So basically what this means is that if you have a certain preset audio sound, they're all different depending on the manufacturer of the vehicle. You know, they might have like different presets that you can choose. Now, if you were to be listening to FM radio on a certain preset and then you change to like your Bluetooth audio, it would carry that preset over, but that's not exactly what you wanted, because one might be music and one might be audiobooks, and obviously you want the sound that's proper to it. So what you could do is you can actually assign a sound profile to that particular media, Bluetooth, FM audio, or in this case, it also shows USB music as an option as well. So here's a pretty cool one. So the new EV theme, first applied to the Ioniq 5, can now be used on all electric vehicles equipped with the standard class Gen 5W system. Conveniently check the driving range, battery status, energy information, power consumption of your vehicle with a completely new graphic theme. Now this is pretty cool. This means that this is one of the first updates that they're actually supporting electric vehicle features or, you know, enhancements, even visual enhancements like this, which is kind of cool because that's something that they haven't really done. And I know a lot of you out there are probably like, over-the-air updates. For whatever reason, we do not have over-the-air updates. It's pretty crazy how Hyundai is still doing their updates this way as opposed to over-the-air. Yeah, I agree with all you out there who are complaining that over-the-air updates should be standard and just all this stuff should just be getting dumped onto these cards over the air. Completely agree with you, but unfortunately right now, this is how you're going to have to get the updates, unfortunately. But at least they're doing some updates for the electric vehicle stuff. In North America, voice recognition is now available for French and Spanish. Well, that's pretty good for those of you who speak French and Spanish in North America. Use your voice for various functions such as navigation, destination search, making phone calls, weather information searches, and more. Select your language by starting on the home screen and selecting Set up General Language, and then choosing the language that you desire. So that's nice that they're, supporting other languages in North America. Now you can set or change your home or work address using voice recognition. Just say home followed by your home address and it will be set right away. Very convenient. If home or work is not set, you can set each one immediately by saying home or work and then the address. You can change the address that was set previously by saying change home or change work. So they're starting to build a little bit on the voice recognition software. Now the voice recognition software in my Hyundai, it's a 2017 EV, Ioniq EV, and it does not work very good. And I'm hoping it works a lot better in the newer Hyundais, but I don't know. You can leave in the comments below if your Ioniq 5 has any better voice recognition than the older Hyundai Ioniqs. The information display has been upgraded so that you can see a variety of information when listening to FM, AM radio stations. You can view information such as station information, broadcast logo, song information, album art, and more. Well, that's kind of cool. At least they're, give you some extra stuff, even though I think radio is kind of one of those things a lot of people don't use as much anymore, especially younger generations. We're into more or less the streaming from our phones, Spotify or whatever the case may be. And then of course, now with satellite radio being very commonplace, I think that's also pretty common. But it does show that they're still upgrading these systems to still have functionality even in the FM, AM radio space. Not that AM would really benefit too much from this, I'm imagining, but hey, it is what it is and they're updating it. So. And then over here, we show the types of audio systems available to update. Now, once again, depending on your vehicle, the age, the trim, the country you're from, your vehicle may or may not be in this list, but this shows that they still are updating some of the older vehicles. Now, I have a 2017 Hyundai Ioniq, so it's pretty old, and yet it still shows listed here as it being supported, which is really cool. So they are still supporting the standard class Gen 4, which is the 7 and 8 inch touchscreens on the older vehicles, which is what I have in our Ioniq 2017. Then we have the standard class Gen 5 navigation, 7 and 8 inch screens. They're still supporting those with this update. The 5W navigation is also going to take some updates. Basically, the W is just a widescreen version. Then we have the premium class 2 generation, so that is still being updated, and then the premium class 5 generation, which is once again a bigger screen on the premium class vehicles. So as long as you have one of these head units in your vehicle, you will still get updates. Now keep in mind that if none of those updates that we mentioned before don't apply to you, you will still get map updates, meaning you'll still get the updates for the roads and any changes, points of interest, things like that. Possibly even chargers if you're an EV owner. All that will be updated with this version as well. So even though you may not benefit from any new features or changes in that aspect, you will still get the updates for the navigation. All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much for sticking around talking about the October 2022 update for Hyundai vehicles. Of course, if you have any comments or opinions about the update, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. I'm sure a lot of people would love to hear what you think of the updates and whether or not this is the proper way to do it. Would you prefer to do over-the-air updates? Obviously. So discuss that in the comments below. And of course, let me know what you think of these updates as well. Of course, I'd like to thank you very much for sticking around on this video. And of course, if you're still looking to do the upgrade yourself on your Hyundai vehicle, I will put the link once again in the description below where you can go ahead. And before you click on that link and go away, make sure you hit the like button just below the video. Of course, if you aren't subscribed to this channel, please consider supporting us by hitting that subscribe button just below. And of course, you can check us out on our social media and our website, techmotoring.com, Twitter @techmotoring, facebook.com/techmotoring. Thanks again for watching this episode, and I hope your update goes smoothly this time around, and we'll see you on the next episode. And remember, welcome to the future and welcome to Tech Motoring. We'll see you all on the next update.